Welcome to Journey with the Jays on Real 1100, Facebook Live, and YouTube. Tonight, we're joined by Danny Thompson from Beyond the Buzzer, a senior writer for the NBA, threepointconversion.com. Danny, welcome to Journey with the Jays. So, Spenser, let's start off. Oh, yeah, Danny.
Thank you guys for having me on. Go ahead.
Spenser, you want to start out with the NFL this week?
Yeah, sure. Let's start out with the NFL. So, very weird Sunday for the top three rookies in the league. You had Justin Herbert play maybe his most complete game of the season. It was against the Jets, but he was still fantastic. Tua got benched in the fourth quarter of a winnable game for Ryan Fitzpatrick. And Joe Burrow tore his ACL, MCL. He has other structural issue in his knee after a vicious hit. Awful story. I guess let's start with Justin Herbert. Let's start on a positive note. Danny, how impressed have you been with Justin Herbert this year? And is he the runaway rookie of the year right now?
He's been a runaway rookie of the year, in my opinion, for about the last 2 to 3 weeks. If it wasn't for bad defensive lapses and receivers dropping passes in end zone and the Chargers having just about as worse luck as the Atlanta Falcons, they'd be a way better team than what they are right now. So, yeah, Herbert is a runaway. The only person to me close is Justin Jefferson.
Jon, I know you're a big backer of Joe Burrow, and obviously he had that horrible injury. How much blame do you place on the Cincinnati Bengals organization?
I only place the blame on that field. That field has a way of eating players' knees alive. Remember Robert Griffin III towards ACL? That field, it's that and the Giants/Jets field just has a way of taking players' seasons or careers, whatever you want to call it, from them. So I blame that field. It's always something with that field. Always something. So I blame that field. I don't blame the Bengals at all. You know, they're just playing their guy. You know, they've been playing him the whole season and nobody had a problem. So I'm not going to start blaming them now. It's, you know, it's an injury that nobody wanted to happen, but, you know, it happened. And he said he'll be back. He can't get rid of me that easy.
Jon, I got a quick question for you. And I want you to answer this very honestly because I don't know what the Bengals field did to you, but like, what did they do to you?
Not Bengals. That was the Washington football team.
Oh, excuse me. All right. Well, what did the Washington football team field do to you? Like, what happened that like you have this vendetta against them? Because
that field is awful. It's like the worst field in the entire NFL. It's terrible, and it always maybe the Jets/Giants is worse. I'm not sure. They both eat players' knees alive. I actually hate when players go to those two stages because you always see these weird type of injuries, mainly at those two stages. So I blame them.
I wonder if there's ever been a study on that, you know, as far as knee injuries per stadium, because I've never heard that before. I mean, I heard the 49ers complaining about MetLife Stadium after they played there against the Jets. I think it was week 2. And then week 3, they were fine. They didn't really have any injuries. So, but I've never heard somebody, you know, talk about a stadium like the way it's been done this year. So I don't know if I buy that. I mean, it's just, you know, unfortunate when things like that happen. I don't think fields play that much of a part in it. You know, the trainers and the staff make sure you have the right cleats for the right field.
No,
you know, because different cleats catch differently on different surfaces. So there's so many things that go into it. I can't blame the field. I think it's just a lucky circumstance.
I want to throw something out real quick because, Jon, you can blame the field all you want, but I think this is important to mention. Joe Burrow is the third most sacked quarterback in the league this season. He was sacked 32 times. He only falls behind Russell Wilson, who was sacked 33, and Carson Wentz at 40. So you can blame the field all you'd like, which I think is a little bit strange, but that's your prerogative. That's fine. I'm not going to judge you for your opinions. But the truth is he was sacked the third most times of any quarterback. You know, it's right. Garbage O-line. I mean, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's the point I'm getting at. To be sacked as many times as he was, it sounds like that's an organizational issue because they didn't give him the proper line that he needs. And, you know, especially when you're putting a rookie quarterback that you know has got the talent to be the guy, you got to surround him with the right talent. And when your offensive line is obviously allowing opposing players to get to the quarterback as many times as they did, that's the concern for me. Like that's why I blame the organization. Joe Burrow should not be sacked that many times. It should not happen. That falls on the organization. So you blame the field all you like, but I think that's an organizational issue that they're not putting him in the best position to win in terms of his offensive line.
JB, Tua Tagovailoa got benched for Ryan Fitzpatrick. That was a huge surprise, and they actually ended up losing the game anyway. But did you think Brian Flores made the right move in benching Tua when he was struggling?
Absolutely not. I mean, if you can have enough kahunas to start him, you got to stick with him. He's a rookie. You got to be behind him. I understand Fitzpatrick is more seasoned, but you didn't draft Tua to sit on the bench once you start putting him in. Why bother putting him in if you're going to pull him in a close game? That's a valuable experience he needs. When it comes down to if we're going to keep playing him and he's going to get better, you got to give him the rope. You got to let him go. John, you're a Miami fan. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been waiting for this one. Look, I think that there was an injury or he got hurt in the game. If you watched his last play of the game, when he got sacked or he got hit, his ankle bent the whole way back. And if I'm Flores and I see that and he's been getting smashed all game because the offensive line has basically been the worst it's been all year. That line was really good. One of their best linemen, Solomon Kinley, got hurt in the game. So that was a big factor in their line playing poorly. Jesse Davis, the right tackle, which would be his blind side, they actually moved him at halftime from right tackle to right guard. That shows you how bad your blind side tackle is when you have to move him out of the blind spot. So the line was just poor all day. Now, I give credit to the Broncos. I mean, Reed was fantastic. His motor was insane for the Broncos. He was playing like a man possessed. But that line was poor, and he was getting beat up. And I think Flores, on top of him rolling his ankle the last play he was in, and it looked really bad, on top of that and him getting beat up all day, I think Flores said, enough is enough. Like, I'm not going to get my guy hurt. We still have a chance to win, and Fitzpatrick can bring us back. And if we lose, it's not that big a deal. It's on the road. Still have 2 more winnable games after this before we host Kansas City. So he said, if we lose, it's not going to kill us. I'd rather have my quarterback alive than the season be over if you lose Tua. Because Fitzpatrick's not taking you anywhere if Tua goes down and he's done this season.
So, John, quick question for you. So before with the Bengals, did you blame the Bengals or did you say it was, the turf? But now with Miami, it's okay to bench Tua without a confirmed injury? I don't get it.
Tua was not hurt, by the way. There's no report of any injury that I've seen.
There's no report, but if you watch that last play and his ankle is basically bent in half, I would be kind of nervous too. And the Bengals are going nowhere, whereas the Dolphins have a shot at winning the division and potentially going deep into the playoffs. Why wouldn't you protect him in a game where if you lose, it really doesn't kill you? You're still a game out of the division with an opportunity to go to Buffalo in week 17. Why would you risk it in a game where if you lose, it's not going to kill you? You got to save the guy that's going to give you a chance to win this season. Fitzpatrick's not taking you anywhere. If he's the guy the rest of the way, you can just hand the Bills the division. You can just knock the Dolphins out of the playoffs right now.
Well, I have thoughts, but I want to throw it to Danny real quick. He's our guest. Danny, I want to hear your thoughts before I give my 2 cents on this.
I think, to JB's point earlier, you have a rookie quarterback, and you look at what adversity has done. You look at Joe Burrow in week 1. He went through adversity in week 1. Yes, his field goal kicker let him down, and, he missed wide right. Justin Herbert comes in his first game going against Patrick Mahomes, the Super Bowl MVP, they just won a championship, and he came back from adversity. It made him stronger. Tua goes to Denver, and yes, Tua got benched because he couldn't pick up pass coverages. What the Broncos did to him on Sunday was basically twist, stunt, and just change the packages. Tua couldn't catch up with it. That's why Tua got pulled. He wasn't injured. Like to Jake's point, there was no reported injury. He was probably injured because he was on the turf half the game. That's what happened.
You're not going to mention that his first game. You mentioned the other guy's first game, but Tua's first game was against Aaron Donald. So that's a little bit of adversity itself. I'm just saying.
with an entire bye week to prepare for it. And remember, in that game, the special teams and defense carried him in that game.
Yes.
Tua hasn't had to win a game with his arm
You
yet.
can have a year to prepare for Aaron Donald, but it's still Aaron Donald. Doesn't matter how much preparation you have.
Listen, but when you have time to prepare, it's different than Justin Herbert coming in because his quarterback, the previous quarterback, somehow got an injury, a punctured lung literally before kickoff, taking a cortisone shot. That's a different type of story. Tua had 10 days to prepare for Aaron Donald. All right. The Dolphins knew this was coming anyway, but back to Sunday, he couldn't pick up pass coverages. He couldn't call audibles. He couldn't get the offensive line to shift. And your point, John, the offensive line was bad anyway. Tua didn't need to get pulled. If you're going to come back, you're going to have to believe in him. Either one thing's going to happen. Two things are going to happen. Either Tua is going to learn from this and obliterate the Jets and the Dolphins the Bengals next 2 weeks, or this goes south and this kid's confidence is killed. Because there's no way you're beating Kansas City in 2 weeks. There's no way.
I'll just add one more thing to this. The Dolphins deserve to lose that game. I watched the entire game, and they didn't play it like a team that was with their backs against the wall. They didn't play desperate. They didn't play hungry. They played like they were entitled. Like they came in there like, oh, this is the Broncos. We deserve to win. And they deserve to lose that game. You play against any team in the NFL like that, any team can beat you if you go in and play cocky and arrogant and like you deserve to win. That's exactly how Miami played, and they deserve to lose. You can't play like that in the NFL no matter who you face.
Well, so I want to kind of piggyback on what Danny said because I agree. And same thing with what JB kind of was getting at. If Tua is your guy going forward, and that's been made relatively clear, it's obviously not Ryan Fitzpatrick. They drafted Tua for the purpose of him being their guy. That's the feeling you get. And, of course, that's why they put him in. If he's supposed to be your guy, you have to show the confidence in him. And when you take him out in a game he's playing poorly, what that says to me is at the first sign of adversity that we have with you, we are not going to trust you to come back and win this game. We are not going to trust you to do what you're going to be paid to do for hopefully many years to come. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to take you out. We're going to put someone else in because we can't trust you. And that's not what you want to do for your quarterback. You don't want to do that for anybody. You don't do that for a veteran. You don't want to do that for a rookie. You don't want to do it for anybody. And a guy like Tua, they have a lot of confidence in him, or so it seemed, beforehand, and a guy that they obviously really like to do that. That was just I don't like the decision. If he's going to lose, he should lose the game. If they're going to win, he should help win the game. It doesn't make sense to me because now when he comes in the next game, is his confidence shaken? Maybe does he think, does my team really trust me, or do I need to put the whole team on my back and really come out and perform if our defense is not playing up to snuff necessarily, right? If everything is not going perfectly fine and I'm not game managing, and I need to do more than that, does he put too much pressure on himself now because his team thinks, oh, we're going to take you out of the first sign of adversity? Does he get that feeling? Because I think that's a lot of things that I've seen with Daniel Jones, and I hate to always bring it, I hate to bring it back to the Giants, but I think that's a lot of what you see when he plays. He loses confidence because he has to put it on all his back, all the work on him. I don't want that to happen to a guy like Tua, who is really special, but what we saw gives me concern about that. Does he start to think I have to do everything to A, keep myself in the game, and to B, possibly win games for my team? That's not what you want to do, and especially not with a really highly touted, extremely talented young man in Tua Tagovailoa. It makes me worried because he's got such potential. He really does. But you gotta give him a chance. You can't just give up on him like that.
All right, guys. I want to move to the NFC South, and I want to talk about the best team in the NFC South and the worst team in the NFC South. Danny, who do you want to start with, Saints or Falcons?
The Falcons aren't the worst team in the division, so we'll start Falcons. We know they're third worst team in the division. Carolina's worse than they are. So,
but they're 3-7. They have one less win than the Panthers.
Yeah, the Falcons have also blown four leads with 3 leads in the final 5 minutes of games. We're technically 6-4 at this point. All right, we're technically 6-4. If John believes that Joe Burrow is Rookie of the Year, the Falcons are 6-4 at this point. That's all I'm saying.
The Giants are technically possibly a playoff team. Technically.
Hey, listen, they're a half game out behind the Eagles. You might as well.
We're just going to move you to the NFC East.
Well, you know what, though? This is all the 6 degrees of separation with the Bengals because guess what? The Eagles are in first place because of the Bengals.
You're right.
That's a good point.
By the way, I loved your Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts conversation, Danny, that I listened to. Absolutely loved it. Your take on it?
Well, it doesn't make any sense. And Eagles fans are wishing that Carson Wentz is out of the game. But here's the problem with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is being let down. It's a letdown. What all quarterbacks need, and if you look at the prime example of Kyler Murray, the NFL right now, it is what you do is you get a young quarterback and you put weapons around him. That's the way quarterbacks are successful. Okay, you look at you go to Washington. Dwayne Haskins, why he failed in Washington? He might not be able to read a playbook, whatever what people say, but what receiver talent do you have around him? Lamar Jackson's going through the same thing in Baltimore. Mark Andrews is good, but he doesn't stretch the field on the outside. Kyler Murray gets DeAndre Hopkins, and look what Kyler Murray's doing right now. He's considered a dark horse MVP candidate because Arizona is literally fighting for the playoffs. Jalen Hurts can walk in the door right now in Philadelphia, and yes, he can move around. He still has that terrible offensive line. He has some banged up receivers and no running game. He'll get injured before he even has a chance to even take off. So Carson Wentz makes $120 million, and some of his stuff is his fault, but this man has no receiving core. I think one of us will be starting for the Eagles next week at wide receiver.
So let me bring it full circle. I mean, then why are the Falcons so bad? Matt Ryan has Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Todd Gurley. He does have the offensive weapons. How do they only have 3 wins so far through 10 games?
Because only got 3 guys who can tackle on defense. There you go. The Falcons have lost in every possible way. The Falcons are the only team to lose in every way possible this year. So look at it so far. In their games this year, they've lost a game at the end because special teams don't know how to pick up an onside kick. They lost to a game where Mitchell Trubisky was the starter and Nick Foles finished it. Okay. Atlanta lost a game where they had a chance to win, and all Todd Gurley had to do was fall down, and he scored. You know your defense is incompetent to not tackle when Matt Ryan, when they showed the NFL films, when Todd Gurley scored, was upset because he knew what was about to happen. And by the way, we had all new low this week. All right. And Carolina did fire Dan Quinn, but Atlanta lost to a guy who was considered a tight end in ESPN fantasy football last week in Taysom Hill. That's life as a Falcons fan, ladies and gentlemen.
A guy that's never thrown a touchdown pass in the NFL.
He scored 28 points as a tight end in ESPN fantasy football this week. That's all I have to say.
As a tight end, that's the key to remember. Danny, I'm sorry for you. All our listeners are for our radio. We're all in Atlanta. You guys, I'm sure that are listening, know how Danny's feeling right now. And we've talked about this before. They're playing better football. I'll give them that. They have been better since firing Dan Quinn. That's not a question. But that defense is still terrible. I mean, that's you want to talk about why the Falcons have the record they have. It's not Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley and Todd Gurley. That offense does their job in the majority of games.
Hold on. If you look at I was actually listening to ESPN, and they said that Matt Ryan this year, at least in fantasy, is 25th or worse. For quarterbacks, is 25th or worse when Julio Jones is not playing.
Yeah, but you can't look at it from a fantasy perspective.
Well,
I get that.
But that translates onto the field. That translates onto picks and not throwing touchdowns and not yards and all this stuff. That kind of translates into what he's done. Because we watched games where –
did you need ESPN to tell you that? Let's take away one of the best receivers in the game. Obviously, your quarterback's numbers are going to go down. Ridley's great, but
they still have weapons. They still have Ridley. They still have Hayden Hurst. I mean, they still have weapons. You shouldn't be that bad.
Okay, Julio Jones, Hayden Hurst. Are they in the same conversation?
But they literally put up like nothing without Julio.
But you're taking you're taking away one of the 5 best offensive weapons. Even though Jones has an issue getting in the end zone, and we've seen this for years, Julio draws attention everywhere he goes. I mean, you're not going to single cover Julio Jones. You're going to either play a cover 2 and send somebody over the top, or you're putting your best corner on Julio.
But how does Marshawn Lattimore out and you can't score against that defense? How is Marshawn Lattimore out and you can't score against that defense?
Julio only played one half. Julio played one half. And what happened in the second half? The only thing the Falcons had positive on Sunday was the kicker kicking field goals. Outside of that, Younghoe Koo basically was the star of the game for the Falcons. The Falcons defense actually was solid. Julio Jones goes out. Matt Ryan, the offensive line turned into what Tua Tagovailoa went through and basically battered Matt Ryan all over the field. Matt Ryan got battered on Sunday. Now, does that mean what's going to happen if Jones is out on Sunday against Las Vegas? Atlanta's probably going to lose again this Sunday because Atlanta doesn't run the ball in the red zone. Todd Gurley only hits holes when he needs to. There's holes everywhere. It's not all Matt Ryan's fault, but Matt Ryan should get some of it, but he should not get the lion's share of it. The defense is still bad. They're still 25th or worse in almost every defensive category, I still think. So
we got to talk about the winner of that game, and that was the New Orleans Saints. They now jump to 8-2. They're the best team in the NFC South. JB, are they the best team in the NFC right now?
I don't know. The NFC is so close. I kind of like the Rams, even though they had all the best record. It's between them and Seattle in my eyes. I think the Super Bowl is going to come through the West. Russell Wilson, I think, is the best quarterback right now in the NFC. And I think the Rams defense is for real. So you put those two things together, one of those teams is going to walk out to the Super Bowl. So I'm not going to say the Saints. Not until you get Breeze back and, they show that they can beat one of those two. Jake?
Yeah, so if we're talking just the NFC South, I'll give it to the Saints. If that's what you want to know, then yeah, they're the best team. They've handled Tom Brady, and the thing is that I really have a lot of respect for with this team. They found ways to win. You lose Drew Brees, right? You got to put in Taysom Hill. And we just made fun of basically the fact that Taysom Hill was in fantasy leagues and ESPN. He was a tight end and he won a game. And yes, that reflects, of course, on Atlanta, like we just talked about. But I also do think the Saints deserve a little bit of credit for that. They found a way to win. I mean, look, they weren't playing, some unbelievable team. They were playing the Falcons, and I'm sorry, but that's the truth of it. The defense is bad, but I still give them some credit for that. Now, if I want to talk about the best team in all of the NFC in general, I would have to give it between the Seahawks. I agree with JB, but my other team actually is probably I'd probably say the Packers. I really like the way Aaron Rodgers has played, and the reason I'm putting them up there is because of the quarterback play, which those are the two best quarterbacks in my eyes in probably the whole league at the moment in terms of front runners for MVP. Of course, Patrick Mahomes is always up there. You guys know that. I don't have to say that. That's kind of unspoken, of course. But in terms of the best NFC quarterbacks, those are the two guys. Aaron Rodgers has looked really great for the most part. He's really done some impressive things. And you look at this past week with the Packers and what they did. Their defense let them down, but just talking about Aaron Rodgers, he played really well against a very tough defense. And I give the Colts a lot of credit that they don't get deserved, that they don't get, but they do deserve, because that's actually a surprisingly good AFC team. But I love the Packers as my secondary team. But I would still probably pick the Seahawks as number one.
I'm going to disagree with you real quick. Just two reasons. They went to Tampa, got spanked. They went to Indy, another good team, and they lost. You got to beat good teams to get to the Super Bowl. When the playoffs start, you don't have the Giants in it anymore. And I'm a Giant fan. So you got to beat good teams to get there. Right or wrong, Danny?
You have to. You have to win those games. But this is – in the NFC, the Saints might be the best team because they've beaten Tampa and they've beaten them on their field, and they whooped them on there. They beat them on the road and beat them badly on the road on national TV. The one thing about the Saints is we realize that the Saints are good in the regular season, but when it comes to They find ways to lose in the dumbest ways to lose possible. So I don't trust the Saints in January. I trust them before January, but not when we get to January. The team I do trust in the NFC, Seattle is scary because Jamal Adams makes everything different, and now Carlos Dunlap is now sacking quarterbacks because he's happy to get away from John's Cincinnati team. I'm taking Seattle barely ahead of Green Bay and barely ahead of New Orleans at this point. To JB's point, I think Seattle's the best team in the NFC at this point.
See, and that's why I'm against the Packers as well. When we watched the Packers last year against the Niners, what was the reason they lost? Couldn't stop the run. They got destroyed twice against the Niners last year. They can't stop the run, and that's all a team has to do against that defense is run the ball, and they can't stop it worth anything. They got demolished because you can run all over that run defense. And if you can't stop the run in January, you don't win games. You have to be able to stop the run when it gets cold. Teams are playing ground and pound. That's typically playoff football. You got to be able to stop the run, and they can't. They couldn't do it against the Niners. That's why I don't believe in the Packers. Until they show that, I just cannot believe in the Packers. So I got to go with Seattle as my team. I mean, Russell Wilson just makes everybody better. Russell Wilson makes every single player better. It's insane.
Yeah, I like Seattle too, guys. It's hard for me to pick against Russell Wilson. Brady and the Buccaneers don't look great right now. I don't know when Drew Brees is going to come back. And Aaron Rodgers, outside of Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, he does not have a lot of weapons on offense to work with. And he wanted the Packers to make a move at the deadline, and they did not. So I like the Seahawks for that reason. That's all I have for football this week, guys. But I do want to wish everyone here a happy Thanksgiving. It is Thursday. And JB, what do you have for us tonight with basketball?
So the NBA draft was last week. So we got Danny on, who's senior writer for the NBA. So Danny, quick question for you. Were there any surprises that you saw in the NBA draft?
To me, seeing Patrick Williams go forward to Chicago was the biggest surprise to me. I had him on my last mock draft at number 7. It's the scary part about taking a guy with the last name Williams, who was a sixth man from an ACC school, because the Hawks did that almost a decade ago and passed on Chris Paul, and that guy ended up being Marvin Williams. Now, Marvin played a long career, just retired this year. It wasn't the way that we thought he was going to be, but Patrick Williams has a very, very high ceiling, and it could be scary if it falls low. Chicago needs to hit this pick. I'm not sure if that was it, but on the other spectrum, Tyrese Halliburton sliding all the way down to Sacramento at 12 was super surprising, because he should have went to me, he should have went to Detroit at number 7, or definitely New York at number 8. Halliburton is a combo guard, doesn't do anything spectacular, but one thing he does do is he knocks down 40% of his three-pointers. He's very calm with the basketball in his hands, plays very good defense, has a nice wingspan. He's just that guy that's just not super flashy. And going to Sacramento, when you have De'Aaron Fox and you have Buddy Yield, he could actually play with both those guys. So it's a great fit for Sacramento, and it seems like it's a new beginning outside in the Cal area.
And what do you think about what the Hawks did with Onyeka Okongwu out of USC?
Listen, Atlanta had an issue last year with defending the paint. They couldn't do it. I mean, literally anybody, if you got past Trae Young, who can't defend defensively to the rim, it was an easy layup. In a span of about 9 months, they ended up getting Okongwu and also Clint Capella. Okongwu block shots. He's extremely talented, and when you talk to him, he reminds you a lot of Bam Adebayo, and his size, his build strength, and everything else. I love his game. He's in Atlanta. The only scary part about it is, what does that mean for John Collins? That's the scary part.
That's a good point. Now, were you surprised LaMelo dropped to 3? Because I know LeVar thought he should have went number 1, of course, but he was saying that for years now. Was that any shock to you?
No, because to me, Anthony Edwards was the better fit next to D'Angelo Russell. Because Anthony Edwards doesn't have to have the ball in his hands to be effective, and to have two ball handlers like D'Angelo Russell and LaMelo Ball together wasn't exactly the right fit. LaMelo Ball in Golden State was definitely not the right fit because where was he going to play? You got Klay Thompson, who before he got hurt, and you had Steph Curry. And even with Klay Thompson's injury, Ball was not the right fit next to Steph Curry anyway. It's because Ball is not the outside shooter needed to play with, Steph Curry. Charlotte was the right fit. Charlotte was the right fit, the right time. The city needs a star player. They haven't had one or somebody that's going to draw attention since Larry Johnson. They drafted Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning all the way almost 3 decades ago. Now Charlotte has a complete bullseye on them, and it's going to start drawing national attention. And the city needs something like that. And I think it was the right fit. It was the right basketball move, even with Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham on the roster.
So just now, about a minute ago, Waz just tweeted that the Kings declined to match the offer to Bogdanovich. What do you think about that?
Well, Atlanta, barring injury, got themselves in the playoffs now. I think by drafting Therese Halliburton, that was their way of saying we don't really nothing wrong with Bogdanovich, but he's not needed there anymore. Remember, the last regime loved Bogdanovich, led by Vlade Divac. This regime wants to let Buddy Hield be Buddy Hield. Perfectly fine. What Atlanta got was a guy who's not scared to take shots at the end of games and can hit them. Atlanta doesn't have that guy other than Trae Young on the roster. No offense to John Collins, no offense to Dylan Gallinari, but Bogdanovich is a guy that has the fortitude to take the shot at the end of the game, especially if they start double teaming Trae Young. Atlanta is doing what the Arizona Cardinals did with Kyler Murray. They're putting basketball talent around him, and they're doing it at the right time. Atlanta didn't wait to next free agency where they don't know, guys like Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, and then we're going to sign. No, Atlanta's like, we're going to make the playoffs. And the best part about it is with 10 teams in the playoffs this year, a chance to make the playoffs, Atlanta has now guaranteed themselves at least to get a shot at the play-in game, if not getting that 6th seed and avoiding everything all in general.
So, Danny, I want to go back. We were talking about Charlotte, and I believe before the show you said you are a Hornets fan, correct?
I cover the Hornets, and I grew up a Hornets fan. I'm from the Charlotte area. Not born and raised, but I grew up here, went to high school here. This is my city, so yes, I'm a Hornets fan.
Well, then I'm sure. Well, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. A couple days ago, the Hornets themselves signed Gordon Hayward to a 4-year, $120 million deal. I want to hear your thoughts about. Were you happy to hear about this? Did you, what do you think the impact of the team? What were your immediate, off the bat thoughts about that?
So it was Saturday. I was driving up to Virginia, stuck on I-85 because I-85 was shut down due to a wreck with a fatality. I was on the way to propose to my now fiance, and I was driving the car, and I get a tweet. It came from Woj, and it said, Gordon Hayward has signed with the Charlotte Hornets. And I'm like, okay, I'm cool with that. And then it said, Jordan finally get his man since he didn't get him in 2014. Okay, I'm cool with that. And then next thing you know, I saw the thing. It says 4 years and $120 million, and I almost wrecked my car. Nothing against Gordon Hayward. I like Gordon Hayward. I like what he does. But $120 million just sounds like we just did the Nick Batum thing all over again. It's not going to be now. It's going to be towards the end of the contract. And what made it worse was the Hornets had 1 year left of Nick Batum's contract, and they decided to stretch provision it over the next 3 years, which cost the Hornets $9 million in dead cap space over the next 3 years, which makes it worse because now Gordon Hayward is costing the Hornets $39 million essentially on both ends. If they can get this in a sign and trade and send something to Boston and take some of this cap away, I won't hurt as bad. But that just tells me signing Gordon Hayward to this money means they better call Hassan Whiteside and get him in Charlotte and get him come back home. I mean, now, quick, fast, in a hurry.
Is Charlotte a playoff team right now?
If they get Hassan Whiteside, they can get themselves into the playing game. They can get themselves to 10. If not, LaMelo Ball would have to win Rookie of the Year with the roster the way it's shaped. Nothing against this roster now. If Vernon Carey can actually look like the player he was, he lost 30. I talked about the draft. He lost 35 pounds. Between the last time he played at Duke, he was 270. Now he's at 240. So he's lost a lot of weight. He's put himself in great shape. If Vernon Carey can play like he did at Duke when he led the ACC in double-doubles last year and across the country, and he comes in at center and LaMelo Ball becomes Rookie of the Year and they find ways to be able to use Rozier and Graham, I think they can get a 9 or a 10 spot, which will allow them to have a shot at the play-in game. And if you win that, you have to win one more game, and then, yeah, all bets are off. As long as you get to 10, you got a shot at it. I think they're right around 10 between them and Chicago right now at this current moment.
I would give Charlotte the edge over Chicago. I don't think Chicago's there yet. Danny, I wanted to talk to you. So we talked about the Hawks and some of their moves in free agency. Based on what's transpired so far, who do you think are some of the biggest winners in the NBA free agency this season versus some of the biggest losers?
Well, Atlanta's definitely got to be one of the biggest winners in the offseason. Like I said, you've catapulted your roster. You added Danilo Gall. You basically added two guys who can score points, and then guess what? You added Rajon Rondo to be able not only to balance Trae Young, but he's also going to teach Trae Young. And at times, you can put Rondo and Trae Young together on offense because Rondo's going to get easy shots open for Trae. I think Atlanta is a huge winner in the offseason. Other offseason winners, even with Gordon Hayward's insanely bad contract, Charlotte still wins. They finally got somebody to pay him attention. They got LaMelo Ball. They got Gordon Hayward. I think they're a winner. The Rich Paul-led Los Angeles Lakers, not Rob Pelinka, the Rich Paul-led Lakers, they win because anytime you can convince Montrezl Harrell to take the mid-level exception at $9.2 million when Jeremy Grant got $60 million from the Pistons to go play with the Lakers is an automatic win. Look what the Lakers did. Look what the Lakers bench looked like when we just saw them in the bubble till now. Rondo, Dwight Howard, Avery Bradley, who was missing. Now they turned that into Dennis Schroeder. They turned that into Montrezl Harrell, and they also got Wesley Matthews. That's an automatic win right there. Other teams, the Portland Trail Blazers are a big winner this summer. Okay, Whiteside's gone. That's fine. They replaced him with Enes Kanter, who was phenomenal when Nurkic got hurt the year that Nurkic got hurt. Played phenomenal. But adding Robert Covington to play the wing, a 3-and-D guy that can play the both 3 and the 4, they re-signed Carmelo Anthony and re-signed Rodney Hood. They have depth everywhere, and they have defense. And remember, Zach Collins might miss a little bit of time, but he's also back in the rotation when he gets healthy. So those three, I'm still jury out on Phoenix. I don't know what the Chris Paul thing does, but Chris Paul does make his teams better. Losers, it's easy. It's the Detroit Pistons. Very simple. The Detroit Pistons went from having they had Christian Wood, Andre Drummond, and Blake Griffin at one point this season. They have turned all three of those guys into Blake Griffin, Jeremy Grant, Jahlil Okafor, Miles Plumlee, and $25 million, $60 million to Jeremy Grant. They went out and drafted power forwards and centers throughout the draft. I don't know what is going on in Detroit, but it doesn't seem like they know what they're doing. The Pistons pulled this year what the Knicks did 2 years ago when they signed 78 power forwards. The Pistons just signed 63 this summer. So I think the Pistons are probably the biggest loser of the summer. And for people giving flack to the Oklahoma City Thunder for trading half their roster away, listen, they have 18 first-round picks between now and 2026. They're loading up the arsenal. So I think the Pistons are the worst loser of anybody in the summer. So at this point.
I got a question about my god-awful Knicks, and I'm sorry I even have to ask this, but they happen to be related to the draft, so I will ask. I want to hear what you think, Danny, about the Knicks' first-round draft pick, the first pick rather, Obi Toppin. What are you thinking about that, or what were your immediate thoughts? I know you were saying before you didn't think that may have been the best pick for them at that spot. What do you think?
Well, one thing about Obi Toppin is he's a local kid. He's a kid from New York City. Okay, he will remind you of a guy that played in New York City, which is Amari Stoudemire. I asked Obi on draft night, who did he study? He said throughout the entire time in quarantine and COVID, he was studying Anthony Davis because he wants to be able to be a defender like Anthony Davis, and everybody knows that he's like Amari Stoudemire. Listen, Julius Randle has 1 year left on his contract. So you're going to need a power forward that's going to step into place in the very moment. In the NBA, there's positionless basketball, and we all know Mitchell Robinson, for as talented he is, he's either some games he's really good and some games he's really bad. It's the law of averages. So Obi Toppin can play small ball 5. He can play the 4. He's super athletic, and the kid just wants to play basketball. For the Knicks, you put him, R.J. Barrett, Mitchell Robinson as your future. Yes, they didn't get the point guard in the offseason. If they go bad one more year with Cade Cunningham sitting right there next season in the draft, Cade Cunningham is a franchise-changing point guard. The Knicks could win the lottery, land Cade Cunningham, have 2 max cap spaces next summer, and then Leon Rose, with his connections, don't think the Knicks won't end up with a free agent. The Knicks are fine. It's just going to take time. You can't microwave this process. Look what it did. Look what Atlanta did. Look what Atlanta did, and they didn't microwave the process. And look where they're about to be. I think New York is it's on its way. It's just one more bad year of basketball.
So what about it? Oh, I'm sorry, get John.
Yeah, I've been saying all, through the bubble and whatnot, I was saying that I thought that the Golden State Warriors would trade away the number 2 pick. I thought they would trade away Wiggins and try and get a big player back. I'd heard a lot about Giannis potentially being packaged for the number 2 and Wiggins and a bunch of other stuff. How comes the Golden State Warriors didn't trade out of the number 2 spot and get a king's ransom for that pick? I expected a big player and to really help with now and not a rookie.
It's real simple. Do you want Andrew Wiggins' contract? That's the real answer. It's hard. Trading this pick in Minnesota's pick wasn't going to be hard. It was trying to find somebody who would be able to take on Andrew Wiggins and want to take on $27 million a year of Andrew Wiggins. If you're Milwaukee, I would rather go to bat knowing that Giannis will not sign in December and play this thing out than taking on Andrew Wiggins and whatever that contract is. Okay. Orlando had talked about potentially swapping Vucevic for Wiggins at one point, and it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. So really it's just about Golden State needed a center. They needed one. They're starting Marquise Chris at center, and now you have James Wiseman, a guy that can score, and he also can rebound. He also can block shots and plays with a high motor. Golden State needs that. Okay. In order to take on the Western Conference nowadays, no offense to Draymond Green, but the death lineup days are over because Andre Iguodala is gone and Klay Thompson won't see the court again until 2022. So you got to kind of change things up, and someone's got to be able to pick up the misses because Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins will be shooting threes this year.
What was your thoughts of Orlando taking Cole Anthony, and how do you think he's going to come back from his knee injury?
If anybody's more motivated to do something special, it's Cole Anthony. Like he said on draft night, there wasn't 14 better players than him in this draft, and I believe it. Cole Anthony's a New Yorker. If you know anything about guys who play basketball from New York, they have a sort of confidence about them and a swagger about them that no other city players have. No offense to Chicago, no offense to LA, no offense to any other metropolitan city, Philadelphia, in the country. If you can play in New York City, your swagger is on a completely different level. Cole Anthony fits a need the Magic have not had in years. They haven't had a guy on the perimeter that will score and get to the basket. Markelle Fultz he's not been the player he was before the injury, and we don't know coming off that injury, the thoracic injury, if he ever will be that way. Cole has a chip on his shoulder. He's motivated and focused, and Orlando can use him. I think it was an outstanding pick. They got a guy who was one of the top 5 players in high school basketball 12 months ago. He had a bad year at North Carolina because he got hurt. He came back too early, and let's be honest, Roy Williams didn't do much to put much talent around him at North Carolina. He thought he was getting Carmelo Anthony. Problem was he got hurt, and Carolina I think was 8-2 before he hurt his ankle. So Cole Anthony is going to be a stud, a sleeper candidate for Rookie of the Year because Orlando's backcourt ain't popping.
What did you think of Brandon Ingram? I'm sorry, JB. This is just my last basketball question. Getting the 5-year max from the New Orleans Pelicans.
I mean, you have to give him the max. Brandon Ingram deserved it. all the players that got the max in that rookie class all got it. Brandon Ingram's an all-star. He's gotten better every year. Now it's Stan Van Gundy's job to make sure that Brandon Ingram does not get forgotten about because Zion Williamson's healthy.
Right.
And that's what got Alvin Gentry fired, because he kept force-feeding Zion Williamson like on every possession. You got a guy in Brandon Ingram averaging 24 points a game on the wing, a dangerous scorer that's hard to stop. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. If Brandon Ingram ended up in Atlanta, for example, it would have been a problem. But you put him with Zion Williamson, and you have Lonzo Ball getting him both in the ball in perfect spaces. You pay this man, especially since Drew Holiday's back up north. So it was worth every dollar, worth every penny.
Okay.
John,
I agree.
what's going on in the MLB, John?
Yeah, so we just have a little bit. It actually pertains to the Atlanta Braves. Charlie Morton actually signed with the Atlanta Braves, which is a big signing for them because pitching is something that we had kind of questioned in the playoffs about them being able to, hold up their own with their pitching. And Charlie Morton I can't say how big that, that's huge for those Braves because, that's something that really escaped them for a lot of the season. So that's big news in Atlanta.
Yeah, I saw that this afternoon. Off air, I sent you guys a message about that. I was so excited to hear about this for our Atlanta fans. That was, it was something we made fun of. I don't want to say made fun of. Something we felt was an issue for Atlanta. I think that's a better way to put it. We questioned, will Atlanta go far in the playoffs because do they have the pitching? And they didn't, right? We all can agree on that. Looking back, they didn't quite have that pitching. And I don't think it's put them over the top as a championship team yet. I think that's a little bit premature, of course. However, what I will say is with this young core, you got Charlie Morton, who was, basically an ace. I mean, of course, the team he was on, he wasn't the ace for obvious reasons, but he's got the stuff to be an ace. He absolutely he's great. I mean, we've seen it the past few seasons. We saw what he did back in Houston, I believe, a few seasons ago, and we saw it just now in Tampa. And obviously, Tampa was great this season. He was definitely a huge part of that, being one of their top guys. And I think Atlanta gets a steal with this. I mean, good for them, because you want to talk about bolstering a playoff lineup. A team I thought, and I happen to be wearing my Yankees stuff, but I do, I don't say this just because I'm a Yankees fan, but I think a playoff team that needed help on the pitching and is constantly, everybody's always constantly looking for good pitching. I felt like the Yankees were a great team that could have been for Charlie Morton, right? You steal him from the Rays and you put him on a playoff contender. And of course, that's not the Yankees' only issue, but that would have helped, I felt like. But for the Braves, a team that we've talked about that they've got some potential in the next coming years, they get him for 1 year, fine. Even if he is only for the 1 year, he helps teach his guys around him to be a better pitcher. I'm telling you, he will mentor younger guys around him. And Atlanta is getting, like I said, I think they're getting a steal with this. And, so seriously, that is, like, when I saw that, I was ecstatic, because this is going to make Atlanta a more formidable foe in the playoffs, I think. I don't feel that it's going to, put them in a championship contention yet, because they're just other teams that are clearly better than them still. But I do think this is going to be something we're going to see. Hopefully, hopefully the next season goes smoothly. Hopefully, we'll be seeing a decent impact from the Braves, and it's going to make them a scarier team when you have a name and a guy like Charlie Morton, who we know, like I said, we know how good he can be.
I'm going to disagree with you, and I'm going to say that they are championship contenders with this move. For me, I picked them to win the World Series this next year before this move even happened. I mean, their pitching rotation is just fantastic now. You got Drew Smyly on a 1-year contract, Charlie Morton. You still have Mike Soroka and Ian Anderson. Oh, and you have Max Fried. Like, they're going to have a very efficient starting pitching rotation next year, and you still have Freddie Freeman hitting the ball, Ronald Acuna, guys like that. I really like them to come out of the NL and win the World Series next year.
Wow. Hot take.
Hey, Atlanta Braves, listen to this show. I want them to know how I feel.
Look, now you're on board with me. I mean, remember I was calling it,
slow your roll. The Braves do this to you all the time. They get there, they get far, and then they break your heart.
It's an Atlanta thing.
That's why I'm saying temper your expectations.
The Chargers and the Detroit Lions, of the MLB. They're going to give you hope, and they're going to shake it
Wow.
away. It's just torture. I'm glad I don't root for them.
That's why I said temper your expectations, guys. I think it'll be a splash. It'll make them a better team. Don't expect a championship yet. Just my immediate thoughts, though.
I think they're one player away now. Just one big name. I think they have it. If they can find the right piece, then I think they're there. But I think the Dodgers are still better. The Cubs with a couple of moves are better. Milwaukee's still up there. The Nats are still decent. The Mets are going to start to be a player. So it's not going to be as easy as you guys think for the Braves.
John and I will bet you two $20 that the Braves represent the NL in the championship. I don't know.
Wow, Spenser's already changing his thoughts. He went from saying they're going to be the winners of the World Series to, they're just going to represent the NL.
$20 on Braves World Series. Who's in?
You're on.
So no checks, cash only.
Look, these Braves remind me of the Falcons back when they had Chris Chandler and they went to the Super Bowl and they couldn't quite get over the top and win it. That's what they remind me of. A team that's good, but they're not quite getting over the top. I would like to see them too because we're here in Atlanta, but they kind of remind me of that Chris Chandler Falcons team that got to the Super Bowl but couldn't.
Listen, all I'm saying now is in October, providing all this COVID stuff is done, if the Braves make the World Series, we're going live in front of the stadium. So you two can have your say. Forget the $20. That's what you guys get if you win, because that's
we'll pay for the trip.
I'll be there.
But when you lose,
damn well better believe it.
But when you guys lose, I expect
Danny. I hope you're listening to this because they're all saying this. When the Braves go to the World Series,
listen. If the Braves go to the World Series, I'll be down there. I'll wear a Braves hat if that happens. I don't see it either. With Soraka being out for the first 2 months, you don't know what you're going to get coming off an Achilles injury. No matter what sport it is, the Achilles injury is an injury that does change everything you do. I still think Atlanta needs one more bat in the lineup. I still think they need some more help on the back end of the bullpen because you never have enough of that, and especially the majors. The Dodgers are the defending World Series champions for a reason, and they have pockets deeper than almost anybody else in baseball. The Nats are good. You mentioned other teams earlier, and don't forget the New York Mets because the Mets have an owner that's opening the checkbook up, and no owner can spend more money than what they have with Steve Cohen because no owner has the pockets of Steve Cohen because remember, the show Billions was about Steve Cohen. That's what you have to realize. They created a whole TV show about this man and how much money he has. So he wants to win a World Series and do it the right way. I still think the Dodgers are the best team.
You have a lot of pitching. I mean, your pitching staff, is pretty good to start with. I mean, pitching's what you got to start with in baseball, so that's a good start.
Just stop buying New York Yankee rejects. Just stop buying New York Yankee rejects like Robinson Cano. And they might be able to do something for themselves. But I digress.
Danny, I forgot that you are a Mets fan, so I wanted to ask you, what is the most depressing moment in your Mets fandom experience?
We're just bringing up all the hurt.
Oh yeah,
I know. The Subway Series, of course. The Subway Series hurt. My cousin is a diehard Yankees fan. No, it was. My cousin's a diehard Yankees fan, and the bet was if the Yankees win the World Series, I had to wear a Derek Jeter jersey. Anytime he video chatted me, anytime he called me, my back burned for about a good 6 months. Like I had walking sunburn in my back every time I had to wear that jersey. And I don't know, I tried to shrink it and it wouldn't shrink. So yes, wearing a Derek Jeter jersey, that was heartbreaking. That's part of being a Mets fan. I'm a diehard Falcons fan. I mean, when people ask me what's my worst moment, I don't know if 28-3 hurt worse than the NFC Championship game at home to the 49ers. That one hurt. That one might hurt me more than the Super Bowl because I knew it's Tom Brady. I knew it was coming. I knew it. It's just being a Falcons fan, you knew that the Falcons were going to somehow let this lead slip. I was hoping Matt Ryan had enough time and Kyle Shanahan called the right plays for this to get that Super Bowl ring. But
by the way, that NFC Championship, I still believe Patrick Willis held across the middle for the final play of the game. I still believe Patrick Willis held going right across the middle. I believe that was pass interference on the Niners all day to end that game, and they never called it. I still believe that.
It hurts because it was at home. It hurt worse because it was at home, and to have a chance to win that game in front of the fans, it hurt. It seriously hurt. I know we won the NFC Championship game a couple years later, Matt Ryan at home, but it hurt. having Kaepernick on the ropes in that game and losing a quarterback that can't throw, that hurt. That hurt.
So jumping real quick, guys, weigh in on this really quickly. Clemson, Dabo Swinney was really upset with Florida State for calling off the game this week due to the COVID. What do you guys think really quick? Spencer?
Yeah, makes sense. I agree with Florida State. You call off the game when kids' health is at risk. I'm good with it.
100% agree. I can understand the frustration, but your people's lives could be at risk. Just wait some time. You'll reschedule the game. It's not worth it. John?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Danny answer this. I'll be right back while Danny answers this. Give me 1 second.
37 COVID cases for Clemson have 120 players. That should answer your question right then and there. And besides, Florida State's 2-73 this year. Does losing that game actually hurt Clemson in the rankings and the polls? No, it's the right thing to do. It's kids first, like the guys I mentioned earlier. It's safety first with the kids, and that's the most important thing. But Clemson has 37 out of 120. It makes perfect sense now.
The nerve of Dabo Swinney, who gets a paycheck, to complain that we put kids' lives who don't get a paycheck to play a violent game first. That's it. End of story. Dabo, calm down. I don't know where you're coming from with this. You've got players that are 19, 20 years old that are going to put their lives at risk when you can cancel a game and play the next week. Get out of here, Dabo. John?
I have a little somewhere in my basement here, back here in this clutter. I have a clown nose somewhere. My daughter found this little tiny clown nose she likes to mess with, and I was going to put that on and pretend I'm Dabo Swinney. He's a clown. I mean, to say this is absolutely absurd. You have no reason to say this. You're the better team. It's not hurting you. You make $9 million and you're complaining about the money that it costs for your team to bus down there to take the 9 buses that it took. You make $9 million a year and you're complaining about the $300,000 that it costs to bus a team down there. Okay, take that out of your paycheck if you're so upset about it. You make $9 million and you have the audacity to complain about how it costs your team $300,000 to bust down there and then not play. Get out of here with that. Get out of here, Dabo. And I'm all for Clemson normally because I hate Alabama. I'm a Gators fan. But seriously, you have the audacity after you make $9 million to say that? Get out of here, Dabo. You're a clown. If I had my clown nose here on video, I would wear it. Just pretend I'm Dabo Swinney. Get out of here.
John, tell us how you really feel, buddy.
That the guy's winning all these championships and he makes all that money, and you don't play Florida State, big deal. You're still going to get to the college football playoff and probably win the championship. So, shut up.
Yeah, that was amateur hour for him to complain about that. No respect for Dabo with that. Your player safety comes first. If Florida State has any concerns with safety, that's an automatic. We'll make up the game, or we don't need that win anyway. We're going to make the playoffs, so what does it matter? But that's pretty much about it for this week, guys. Hope you guys are enjoying your turkey dinner. We got football tonight, Steelers versus Ravens. Ravens going up to Pittsburgh. Should be a great game. Hope you enjoy the afternoon games. Catch us Sunday for the NFL show. Follow me at JB _ the program on Twitter, the program. Spencer?
Follow me at Mr. Soft42 on Twitter. Jake?
You can follow me on Twitter at Jake _ Malik. John?
You can follow me at BlueHawks13. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Danny?
Happy Thanksgiving, guys. It's been a pleasure. And we got to do this again soon. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We will see you next week.